Dan Wagner. We're going deep into the valley here, looking to go across Long Creek here. No, the biggest reason why Dan and his partner in the land here want this barn taken down is it's so far off the beaten path that, and there's nobody living back here, that they're starting to have some big concerns about liability with some of the problems in the areas with even with meth people or meth dealers and things like that. These abandoned sites are creating huge liability problems for the landowners. So they don't want to have any kind of a building. They just want to have a clear site, so there's a lesser chance of liability and anybody getting hurt back here. This was the old Thomson Farm.
The old Thomson Farm. The barn, from what I can tell, was probably built 1870s to 1890s, somewhere in that era. We don't have any definite dates on it. Mm-hmm. And this was probably the original barn that they used. You know, they probably only had 1 or 2 cows in those days, and that's all they needed for cows and a couple horses and some calves and maybe some pigs. A lot of the timbers in the barn were probably cut from the creek bottoms here on Long Creek.
And that's what we found with 90% of the barns and the places we go. The lumber was harvested locally. They would set up a sawmill with a sawyer. It would be circular sawn. I'm hoping that when we get inside of here, we'll see some saw marks. Plus, I'm hoping we see some axe down trees and things like that. But one of the bigger issues we're here for is obviously the barn is kind of starting to deteriorate. We can start seeing some of the limestone falling out and stuff. But it has some gorgeous siding. I am really excited. This is an old barn for this area. So I'm following you, Dan. Here's something that takes me back right here. I don't see any chainsaw marks on this. No. They're hand hewn, they're cut down with an axe. Amazing. And all these, they're in their natural state. They're rounded over. They're raw. We're talking about lumber in this barn that's over 200 years old, which gets us to basically back to the birth of our country. So let's take a look around. People actually pay a lot of money to make their walls look like this. This is that limestone put up by hand.
Well, one of the interesting things I found out about the area, upstream up the Long Creek, about a mile, there's an old lime kiln. And what they used to do was take the limestone, this kiln is kind of dome shaped. They'd get a big fire started in there, and they'd take the stones, put limestone in there, and heat it till it got to the point where it just crumbled to granules, like sand, and then they would mix that with sand. That was what the original mortar was made out of. They made their own limestone into cement. That was their original cement powder. Which
is that. If you wanted to do something, you had to usually do it yourself, and be ingenuitive enough to figure that out. Oh, this is cool. This is awesome. And I'm not a huge horse lover, but yet I know this is a harness collar that it's in excellent shape yet.
One of the interesting things I've noticed over the years looking in the basement here is looks like somebody took an old knot and whittled a heart shape into it. It may have been their favorite horse's stall.
Oh, here's another. What's this? Here's boy, look at that. It's an old porcelain sink, which this is the kind of stuff that your craft people and stuff, Dan. We've got gals, they'll paint leaves or designs on it, and this becomes outdoor art.
Okay.
They plant their flowers. We can even hook it up so they have a drain. Yes.
Okay. Here's an old feed bunk. It's still in pretty good shape. It's newer. It's not the 1800s, but
no, but it's old, Dan. It's old and it's awful solid. It's got the old 4x4 legs on it. And again, what would be really cool with this, throw an old barn door over the top of it, it becomes a heck of a coffee table. Here's our top right here. It's nailed to the post here, but this is one of the old doors. Here's the hook and hardware. The top on it. Put it in front of the big screen. I don't know about the curtains, Dan, but the interior designer here was 70s shag. We can see that laid up limestone a lot better now in the light. This was the lime and the mortar and stuff that was fired here, but this wall was laid up 130 plus years ago. and it's still standing the test of time. You can see, you know, it had the wire imprints on it. But yeah, this was all quarried locally. And it gets us back to a point that you were discussing, Dan, about some of the things we're trying to look for here just to help us out on some reselling angles. It is the board and batten siding. This is kind of the traditional siding look that everybody's looking for. The thing that is people really like are the old doors with the old hardware, and the window frames, which leave the old nails, leave the sash, but people can put pictures in it, a lot of different things. And this is a pretty neat thing too. Here was a piece of 2x8 or 10 laid into the stone so they could set their door bucks. And here's the old nail heads are still there. And this has been weathered, and it looks beautiful.
They didn't waste anything when they were building. You know, today's world, you'd buy a 1x4 or a 1x6 that wouldn't have any bark on it. All those little bits and pieces.
They used everything.
They used everything.
They used everything. Oh wow! Here's our jewel. This is amazing. This part of this wall. Wow. This is the back side of the granary wall. This barn's 130 plus years old. Someone, just by sheer happenstance, put this together, Dan. I think I know what some of the patching is. Why don't you fill me in?
You know, it looks like a mismatch to me because they've got little bits of board here, odd shaped pieces. They got some little strips of tin. What they're trying to do is keep the oats from falling out of the granary. Dad probably yelled to the kids to get a couple of boards, and they ran down to the shed or the pile and grabbed. There's odd shaped pieces and little pieces of tin.
The tin is what's amazing to me. It was just put together. They just nailed it together, but this whole layering look, the combination of the bark, the rough sawn, the tin, this wall needs to stay together as a whole. It needs to go to somebody's house or office or whatever it is. We could never, in a million years, could we replicate this to what some farmer did 130 years ago. It's impossible. We're getting ready to leave the Thomson Farm. I really want to thank Dan Wagner for taking the time out of his day to take us back here and walk us through some amazing land history and amazing site history. This is one of the neater sites we've been on. This barn being so old, it's from the 1870s. It's, you know, just being here is, well, it's great for my soul.